What's up, everyone? Today is July 20th of 2024. One of my favorite dates on the calendar, as today marks the anniversary of the 1969 moon landing from the Apollo 11 craft. And that's going to be a big topic of today's video, where we talk about yesterday's Microsoft Windows error as a faulty update leveled many systems across the world, from travel to healthcare and emergency services as well. As always, we'll be talking about the numerology of this incident with a strong focus on the language of Gematria, the number lettering system that sits underneath the English alphabet. These base 4 methods also branch off into standard and what we call Latin or Agrippa's key Gematria. And when you have an understanding of this code, events in the world seem to make a lot more sense. Yesterday's tech outage started on July 19th of 2024, just one day before the anniversary of the moon landing. And of course, with the end date included, this is exactly 55 years after the moon landing. Now, why is this the element of the riddle that I focused on first? Well, the incident was being blamed on a company called Crowdstrike. And when you look up Crowdstrike, you find that their logo appears remarkably similar to the eagle that lands on the moon on the Apollo 11 logo. In the language of Gematria, using the standard reduction method, where every double-digit number is reduced to a single digit prior to adding it to the equation, the word Crowdstrike sums to 55. Using the S exception of Gematria, which is identical to the full reduction method, however, the S here is worth 10. And this is because the S is the 19th letter. 1 plus 9 is 10, and we just stop there. Microsoft also equals 55, and again, it was a failed Microsoft update that caused this issue, a span of exactly 55 years after the moon landing. And in that same reduction method, the phrase moon landing equals 55. That moon landing was carried out by a craft called Apollo 11, which equals 55 in the reverse reduction method, matching the name Armstrong, the man who was said to have first set foot on the lunar surface. His name equals 55 as well. One of the two founders of Crowdstrike, and the only one of whom has a listed birth date associated with him, is George Kurtz, founder of Crowdstrike. And check out his birthday. Mr. Kurtz, born on May 5th, the date written globally as 5/5. When we think of Microsoft, many people think of Bill Gates, as he's the primary founder of the company. And notice how Bill Gates was born in the year 55. Last year, I did another video on the FAA outage that occurred in January of 2023. And in that video, I explained how that outage was a riddle connected to the Church of Satan, which may sound odd on the surface, but I assure you, this is very much in play for this outage yesterday as well. Now, that outage on January 11th of 2023 happened on a date with primary numerology of 55. 55, the ordinal value of Satan. And of course, Satan, the opposite of God. God summing to 55 in reverse. A couple videos ago, when I talked about the Trump shooting, we talked about bread and circuses. And notice how this phrase is also 55. Well, if you measure from the date that the Microsoft Corporation was founded to the date that Department of Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg took office. Notice how he became the head of the DOT exactly 550 months after the initial founding of Microsoft. And the name Pete Buttigieg even sums to the 55th prime number. Now, this time it wasn't just transportation that was hurt. We had communications all across various industries, healthcare, emergency services. And one of those services was 911. For some reason, 911 emergency call centers around the country found themselves in distress. And this is the next number I want to talk about, 9/11, because there's a really strong riddle here connecting this date to September 11th. Measuring from the 9/11 attacks of 2001 to the date of yesterday's outage, notice how we get a span of 274 months and 9 days. Now, why does this number jump out? Well, the number 27,409 is the 2996th prime number. Now, I understand these are some pretty big numbers to follow here, but this 2,996 is a number connected to the 9/11 attacks, because that's how many people were reported to have been killed from that series of incidents. 2,996. In my video last year, connecting the FAA outage to Pete Buttigieg and Anton LaVey of the Church of Satan, the number 9/11 came up on a couple of different instances. Pete Buttigieg was born 18,911 days after Anton LaVey. The founder of the Church of Satan even died 9 months, 11 days after Buttigieg's birthday. Yesterday's outage was exactly 1,166 lunar phases after Anton LaVey was born. A lunar phase, or synodic month, measures the length of time between new moon and new moon. The Church of Satan also has this 119 founding numerology. Pete Buttigieg was born on January 19th. And you have to think it's a little concerning when they give the transportation secretary the 119 digits in his date of birth. And check out the gematria of the name, Pete Buttigieg. 1019 standard, 1191 trigonal, like 119 of 01, the date of the attacks. Both Secretary of Transportation and Transportation Secretary connect to this 119 code. So does the word outage. If you measure from last year's outage on January 11th to this year's outage on July 19th, you even get 1 year, 190 days. And what are they calling this? The Crowdstrike incident. Well, Crowdstrike incident has gematria of 119. And this incident even fell 1,109 days after a total eclipse from Saros 136, which is a cycle of eclipses that I've been following. Talk about how significant that is connected to the Jesuit order. Pete Buttigieg took office 1 year, 109 days after Event 201. Event 201 was a pandemic exercise simulating a coronavirus outbreak just about 3 months before the, quote, real outbreak that shut the entire world down. And this event was hosted by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill Gates, one of the founders of Microsoft, who was responsible for the issue. Now, why does this 201 stand out in particular for yesterday? Well, July 19th of a leap year is the 201st day of the year. Pete Buttigieg has another fascinating connection to the number 9/11. In the book of Revelation, verse 9/11 has ordinal gematria of 1442. Pete Buttigieg was born exactly 14 years and 42 weeks after the establishment of the Department of Transportation, which he now leads. Now, interestingly, that same measurement is also 719 sidereal months. The other measurement of the moon, which tracks the amount of time it takes for the moon to orbit the Earth. And 719 was yesterday's date, July 19th, 719. This brings us to another solid prime number connection, because the digits 7109, this is the 911th prime number. So a multitude of connections to the date 9/11 that help explain why this all went down on this date. So next up, let's go back to the moon landing riddle that is so prevalent here. Once again, the first man to step foot on the moon, reportedly, if you like to believe what you see on television, was Neil Armstrong. Yesterday marked the start of the 622nd week since Neil Armstrong died. And in the Latin cipher, the name Neil Alden Armstrong sums to 622. Yesterday, the 201st day of the year, that's the Latin gematria of the word Apollo, the name of the craft that took him to the moon. Yesterday also left 165 days in the year. And in the alphabetic order, the name Neil Armstrong equals 165. Yesterday's outage occurred under Brown lunation number 1256. Now, for those who are somewhat new to this work, every new moon since the year 1923 has been numbered. And this is a system that has proven highly relevant over time. And in fact, this is why we did a video on the potential assassination of Donald Trump before it even happened, because this phrase equals 1256. Well, on the date of the outage, Neil Armstrong would have been exactly 1,256 sidereal months old. And I can't think of anyone better to track the lunar age of than the man who first stepped foot on the moon. And of course, here we are still under lunation 1256, just like the events of last weekend. In fact, measuring from the date that Pete Buttigieg took office to the attempted assassination of Trump, that was 1,256 days, which matches the Latin value of that phrase. Now, for the next element of this riddle, I want to talk again about how this connects to Microsoft, because not only was the world's largest computer company, well, actually, I don't know if they're bigger than Apple. I lost track a long time ago. Bill Gates' business partner was Paul Allen. And Paul Allen passed away in October of 2018, just 1 year before the Event 201 pandemic exercise. Pete Buttigieg's middle name is Paul. Peter Paul Montgomery Buttigieg. And this, of course, connects us to Paul Allen. Paul Allen passed away on the date leaving 77 days in the year. Notice how the word faulty sums to 77 in reverse gematria. Yesterday's outage was exactly 77 sidereal months after Paul Allen died. It was also 707 days after Pete Buttigieg took office. Correction, the first outage last year was 707 days after that date. Yesterday's was exactly 707 weeks after the first day of 2011. And 2011 is listed as the founding date for Crowdstrike Holdings. No exact date, just 2011. And this was exactly 707 weeks later. In the standard reduction method, the phrase World Trade Center sums to 77. So does September 11th. And how interesting is it that this occurred the morning after the Republican National Convention wrapped up? Literally just a few hours after Donald Trump left the stage. In Latin Gematria, Microsoft Windows has the same 2411 value as the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which hosted the convention. Not only that, but Milwaukee, Wisconsin has that MW initials, just like Microsoft Windows. Milwaukee, a city in the Midwest, MW. 2411 is also the 358th prime, which is the number of lunations between the births of Paul Allen and Pete Buttigieg. So a little bit of a deeper connection there, but there's a couple more simpler things that I want to share. And one thing I missed, actually, the phrase faulty update sums to 1097. And remember, these are the same 4 digits found in the 911th prime number. In most parts of the world, the 19th of July is written as 19/7. So here we have a faulty update, hurting systems all over the world on that very date. So let's circle back to this Church of Satan riddle that was so prevalent last year when the FAA experienced a severe outage. The Church of Satan was founded in the year 1966. The Department of Transportation, led by Pete Buttigieg, was founded in 1967. I guess I'm supposed to specify which DOT I'm looking at. 1967. So this provides a very interesting connection. 1966 and 1967. Pete Buttigieg became the head of the Department of Transportation 19,667 days after its founding. This exact measurement is also 666 lunar phases. Precisely. 666. The number of the beast. But check this out. If you measure from the founding of the DOT backwards to the founding of the Church of Satan, you find it's a span of 337 days. Why is this so interesting? Well, in Gematria, Department of Transportation sums to 337 in ordinal. Using capital letters, a cipher which maintains the alphabetic order but mixes capitals together, the Church of Satan equals 337. The founder of the Church of Satan, Anton Szandor LaVey, with reverse caps, sums to 337. The Church of Satan is currently 3,037 weeks old on the date of this incident. And using capital letters, Crowdstrike Holdings, Inc., the full name of the company, sums to 337 with capital letters. Remember this 337? This is an integral number pairing to the World Trade Center in New York City in standard Gematria. And then when you measure between the birthdays of the two founders of Microsoft, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, you find that they were born 33 months and 7 days apart. Yesterday had primary numerology of 70. With the S exception, security update equals 70. So do the names Pete Buttigieg and Church of Satan, both 70 in reverse reduction. Pete Buttigieg was born during Brown lunation number 730. And in a special cipher of Gematria, one of my favorites, called Satanic Gematria, a cipher structured around the number 666. And can you think of an organization that this cipher might be more relevant to than the Church of Satan? Well, the Church of Satan sums to 730 in that method, matching the moon number that Buttigieg was born under. The church's founder, Anton Szandor LaVey, also sums to 73 in reduction. Anton LaVey was born 116 days before Neil Armstrong. You got that upside down 9/11. And look at how old Anton LaVey would have been yesterday. Exactly 1166 lunar phases, giving us that 1-9 upside down combination. Also with capital letters, the Church of Satan sums to 248. Yesterday's outage was exactly 248 weeks after Event 201. 248, the ordinal value of President Donald Trump and Trump assassination. Well, the United States just turned 248 years old a week before that incident. And in the Latin ordinal method, Microsoft Corporation also sums this 248. Another alignment with Trump that stood out. The name Donald Trump equals 159. Yesterday was 1,590 days after Donald Trump declared a national emergency for the coronavirus pandemic here in the United States. Paul Allen died 15,900 days after the founding of Microsoft. And Pete Buttigieg was born 10,590 days after Allen. So just a string of connections here. And remember, the phrase mass shooting also sums to 159. Now, I don't know if you want to call what happened in Butler a mass shooting. I think it would qualify, right? You had several people. It was random. Well, as random as far as most people could tell. But again, if you check out my video on the Bread and Circus show that happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, you might have a different outlook on it. So one of the last angles I want to take on this incident yesterday is the skull and bones riddle that was prevalent. Check out the gematria of Crowdstrike incident using the standard alphabetic order. Crowdstrike incident equals 223. Now, this is a very special number to Yale University, which is currently 322 years old. This special Ivy League school located in New Haven, Connecticut, celebrated its 322nd anniversary in the year 2023. Yale is home to a special secret society that uses the skull and crossbones as its emblem. Skull and crossbones sums to 223. And of course, the digits under the skull and crossbones, 322. So how does this connect to yesterday? Well, measuring from their anniversary at Yale to the date of the outage was 9 months and 11 days, giving us another big 9/11. With capital letters, blue screen of death equals 322. The skull and crossbones, a symbol of death. In my video on Trump, we explained how Bread and Circuses has matching 572 gematria with skull and bones. Yesterday was a span of 57 months and 2 days after the Event 201 pandemic exercise. Yesterday was also exactly 2,572 weeks after the founding of Microsoft. And look at the gematria of the date, July 19th. 1,572 in that same Latin cipher. The Church of Satan, also 1,572, reverse Sumerian. Skull and Bones headquartered at Yale. Yale sums to 426. And look at how old Pete Buttigieg was yesterday. 42 years and 6 months exactly. Syncing up with the reverse value of Church of Satan, 426. Finally, I want to look a little bit closer at a riddle connected to the book of Revelation. We talked a little bit about this earlier and how this connects Pete Buttigieg to the DOT. In Latin ordinal, the word revelation sums to 119, but in the English alphabetic order, revelation equals 121. 121, like the birthday of Paul Allen, January 21st. This number connects him to Pete Buttigieg, whose birthday has primary numerology of 121. 1 plus 19 plus 19 plus 82. Using the Latin cipher in Gematria, and the standard method as well, when you write out revelation, notice how you get matching numbers with COVID-19. Both revelation and COVID-19 sum to 1,010 and 850 in these two primary extended forms of gematria, 1010 and 850. And remember, it was Bill Gates and his wife Melinda, the founder of Microsoft, that held this Event 201 exercise. Well, Bill Gates was born 1,010 days after his business partner Paul Allen. On the last date of the Republican convention, when rumors of Biden's dropping out of the race started to swirl, notice how Sleepy Joe was exactly 1,010 lunar phases old. The planet Mercury also has this gematria. We'll look at that shortly. On the date of the FAA and Crowdstrike outage, however, Bill Gates was exactly 850 lunar phases old, matching COVID-19 and Revelation. When it comes to Event 201, I used to get chastised for this, but I'm telling you guys, this is definitely relevant. In the alphabetic order, when you write out 666, it equals 201. And Event 201 took place during Brown lunation number 1197. Well, in the Latin method, 666 equals 1197. And no doubt, 666 was a massive number of the coronavirus pandemic. Remember, they tried to push mandatory vaccination in many parts of the world. That's just one example of many. Microsoft and corporation, both of these words sum to 144. And in the book of Revelation, the number 144 is mentioned on 4 different occasions. The phrase moon landing also equals 144. And yesterday's outage was 14 weeks and 4 days after the great American eclipse that passed over the United States. The phrase number of the beast sums to 1044, and mark of the beast has double gematria of 144. When Trump delivered his speech at the Republican convention, he was exactly 1044 sidereal months old. When you add up the gematria in all four base methods for Pete Buttigieg's full name, you get 1044. The founder of Crowdstrike, George Kurtz, his name equals 1044. The two Microsoft founders were also born. Well, let me say that again. When Paul Allen died in 2018, Bill Gates was 22,999 days old, which has the upside down 666, the number of the beast. The Department of Transportation, 666 lunations old when Pete Buttigieg was sworn in. And notice how the name Pete Buttigieg equals 609 in Latin gematria. When you write out September the 11th or 9/11, you get gematria of 609. Paul Allen died exactly 609 lunar phases after the moon landing. The word pi also sums to 69. The book Life of Pi, appropriately published on September 11th, 2001. The huge 9/11 riddles that we see. Paul Allen was exactly 198 months old for the moon landing. That matches the gematria of both President Trump and Beast. Yesterday's outage was exactly 198 weeks after Donald Trump first contracted coronavirus back in October of 2020. There's a few more connections here connected to the planet Mercury. Now, the Roman god of Mercury oversees travel, boundaries, communication, all of these relevant to yesterday's incident, where travelers were grounded because of a security update flaw with a communications company like Microsoft. And I urge you to read up more on Mercury, because when it comes to Roman mythology, it seems like Mercury is one of the most significant and repetitive rituals that we see in the media. Now, the winged foot of Mercury appears on the logo for the Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA was founded on August 23rd, which is typically the first day of Virgo. Virgo on the zodiac is ruled by the planet Mercury. Sign ruler Mercury. Virgo starting August 22nd. The FAA founded one day later. Now, my last video, for the record, talked about the death of the father of Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant was born on August 23rd as well. Well, the guy who runs the FAA is named Mike Whitaker. Let me look this guy up on Wikipedia here first. I didn't have all my pages loaded properly. This guy, Michael Whitaker, took office in October of last year. That date was 8 months and 23 days before yesterday's outage. Pete Buttigieg was 823 weeks old when Anton LaVey died. But what I also found was pretty interesting is that Paul Allen died exactly 1,917 weeks after Pete Buttigieg was born. And with square numbers, Mercury equals 1917. 1917, the year that JFK was born. And JFK was shot 1,917 days after the FAA was founded. The gematria of Mercury also found in Bill Gates' age when he founded Microsoft. So there's a ton to unpack there. And I'm sure there's some things I missed, but we're over a half hour now. So I don't want to go too much deeper, but I just want to point out, in my video on last year's FAA outage, I talked about the big connection between JFK and the state of Wisconsin. And remember, Trump just became the first president. Well, I guess he wasn't the first president to be shot since JFK. That would have been Reagan. But the riddle holds true. This all circles back to John F. Kennedy, and this is why we did a video a couple weeks before the assassination attempt, because the Republican National Convention was being held in Wisconsin. So I just think it's funny that, over a year ago, I was talking about this connection, and then one day after Trump does his speech at the RNC in Wisconsin, we get another FAA outage, which is the whole topic of this video. So, occultic ritual, the world elite playing games with the people below. This is why I don't travel too often. I don't want to put myself at the mercy of this nonsense. All right, everyone. Thanks for jumping in. Whether you're watching live or archived, please do feel free to check out the links in the description. If you'd like to support the work, links for that are also below. Huge thanks to all the love and support I've been getting since we launched the new version of the website in 2022. And yeah, just to second the chat, 7711 is a great channel. And it sounds like he's about to do a video on the number 730, which I touched on during this video. So definitely give his channel a look. I'll throw a link down below in the description. Another underrated channel here on YouTube, just like I would classify myself. But with that being said, that'll do it. Peace, love, God bless. We'll talk to you all next time. See ya.